And we're back. We normally have some sort of explosions going on here, so we don't know what's going on half the time. But anybody out there listening to us, welcome to the show. We have a special guest today. Before we really dive into this one's going to be really fun. Next Level and I are both pet lovers, and but again, before we begin, make sure you guys do check the description below. We have a couple sponsorships down there. Check out Buzz TV and check out the VPN services that we have down there. Got some great stuff. And leave us a comment, leave us a review wherever you're at, wherever you're listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know. Let us know what you guys think. I have goosebumps just knowing like what this product can do. Right. I haven't messed with anything personally, but I'm actually excited to try this out. So Next Level, how are you doing, dude?
Doing pretty good, but it's kind of interesting how my day got started today. So this is probably going to go right into the conversation, but got up a little bit later this morning, messaged you, and then as I'm waiting to find out, what time did you want to start recording today, we get a call from my girlfriend's daughter. Middle of a snowstorm. I'm in Canada, for those of you guys who don't know. So it's a blizzard outside, and there's a kitten on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. So we jumped in our cars, we booked it down the street, and it was actually like a 15-minute drive. And we're trying to get a kitten out of like an electrical box. It was hiding in there trying to stay warm. And finally, her daughter pulls it out. It obviously in the process was a little bit scared, gave her a little nip on the finger. And then once it was wrapped up in the blankets, it was all good. Just before jumping on this stream, we were in the bath and we're trying to book it in for like a vet appointment to see how it's all good. But it's interesting that that's how my day started. And now we get to talk to Leo from Fluent Pet, who could have probably gave me tools to do like a hostage negotiation tool to bring the kitten into the car and out of the snowstorm.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. So Leo, If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what do you do, and what do you have for us today?
Yeah, so I'm founder and CEO of a company. We used to be Clever Pet. We're now Fluent Pet. We originally were kind of like the overnight success story that's been 7 years in the making, or 8, or I don't know. So actually Clever Pet, the company, was started back in 2013, 2014. We had a Kickstarter campaign then, and we made like a computer game console for dogs. That's cool. So we sold a bunch of them, and it was it was awesome. We taught thousands of dogs automatically with software how to basically play computer games, and it ended up being too expensive to make, and so we needed to raise more money. We didn't raise as much money as we wanted to, so the company went into like cryo mode. But then in 2019, I saw what was going on with this one woman, Christina Hunger. She's a speech language pathologist, and she showed that she could take the techniques of speech language pathology for helping young kids who have trouble with communication. She basically helps them use what it's called an AAC device, which lets them press buttons in order to communicate things that they can't say out loud. And she found that you could just take those techniques and apply them to teaching dogs, and it turns out cats too. And it works surprisingly well. So in the following spring, we talked about working together. We didn't end up working together. But the following spring, I was working with a few of the people, dozens of the people who had been inspired by her, and they were seeing a lot of success with their dogs. They were early childhood educators, speech language pathologists, teachers, occupational therapists, and they were still having to basically buy like improvised buttons from Amazon, and then they would get Velcro that they would also have to get, and then they get a thing of plywood from Home Depot, and they have to like Velcro it onto the plywood, and it was taking up their living room. And so I was like, hey, I've got some experience making hardware products. Mm-hmm. I've got some ideas for how you can organize your buttons better, have them take up less space, and bring actually some insights. My background's in cognitive science. Bring some insights from cognitive science into kind of the way that you're organizing your your concepts. So yeah, about my background, I did the cognitive science and AI program at the University of Toronto, and then I went to the PhD program at UC San Diego in cognitive science. And so so that kind of put me in a good place to be able to design these kinds of ways of interaction with other species.
That's pretty cool. That's actually very, very cool. First thing I was thinking was like, man, video games. Like when you were mentioning like you created something for pets to game. What type of games was it? How did that look like? Well, like what was
Sure.
the interaction between the pets? That's actually very, very cool.
Yeah. And we might still bring that product back. Honestly, we have a lot of people that are huge fans of it. I think we figured out how to manufacture it in a way that is financially sustainable. So, but they say hardware is hard. It's a pretty unforgiving undertaking to be in the consumer hardware space for pets with science in a new category. It's like we have basically check all the boxes for like the most challenging first businesses to start, because I had not been a CEO before. So, and we had checked basically all of them. So I would say we didn't check, we weren't doing bio, we weren't having to like cure cancer or something, fortunately. Right. But we checked most of those boxes. Anyway, yeah. So it's like a Simon game, basically. Okay. So the Simon with the lights appear, and you have to press them in the same order that you see them appear, and they get harder over time. That was kind of the idea. And so we were teaching dogs to basically press lights on these 3 touchpads on the Clever Pet Hub, which is what we called it. And then folks, basically the dogs, mostly dogs, although we did have some cats. And in fact, we had this one cat. I've got my cat Sulk here. He got really good at the Clever Pet. He's probably done 10,000 like rounds, maybe more, 100,000 rounds at the Clever Pet Hub. Oh yeah, no, he is like a Clever Pet Hub. If I were to get the thing out, like he's not been using it recently, but if I were to get it out, he would just start meowing, be like, I want to play with this thing right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, so they basically play these little, like, we teach them to interact with the thing. We teach them that the lights matter. We teach them that they can get food from it, and it's a whole process. And yeah, it's a great device. We still got plenty of like IP protection around it. And so we might bring it back. But the thing that has been like really great, and we've done like millions of dollars in sales, is Fluent Pet, which is a set of tools to help people teach their learners, dogs, cats. We have some people that are using birds to teach their learners how to communicate in a much richer way. We don't know like how real it is or what exactly is happening, but so far everything we've seen has been not just like surprising and promising, but honestly sometimes pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen.
I would think that it'd be pretty baking as well, right?
Yeah. Sorry, say again.
I would think that it'd be pretty groundbreaking as well. How much of what you did with Clever Pet transitioned over into Fluent Pet?
So what's interesting, certainly learn all the hardware development, software development, fundraising, etc., like lessons from Clever Pet definitely transferred over, but those are kind of general. I would say it was actually the stuff that we were doing when we were in cryo mode, when we were in the kind of just like me funding it with like my own money to keep the lights on. What we did then was we tried to create a community of people who are going to hack on their own Clever Pet Hubs and build their own games for their dogs and their cats, largely dogs. So that's the thing we called Hacker Pet. And so we took all the algorithms for teaching the dogs and we open sourced them. And then we let people come in and tweak them and actually kind of get their hands dirty with actually the software, because the software side of teaching dogs to play computer games, it's such a simple interface. It's actually really easy to make these games. Because it's just like, turn this light on. If it gets touched, turn this other light on. So I was really excited at kind of the combination of, well, like this, honestly, 10-year-olds can program this. And the real thing that's the real challenge with teaching your dog or cat to play these computer games is actually being in the room and seeing what they're doing and tweaking how it works. Like that's kind of what you need to do. And that was actually one of the big obstacles to us being successful earlier, is it meant that there was like a lot more overhead because we were having to do it for like thousands or millions of dogs rather than like one dog. So building that community of people that were trying to do things DIY, meeting them with them on a regular basis, taking their feedback and incorporating it into product development in like a really rapid way. That was what we developed with HackerPet. And so when it came time to start doing this with Fluent Pet, it was just the exact same framework of HackerPet brought to Fluent Pet, and it worked super well.
That's awesome. Now, so I have a boxer shepherd, and she is extremely smart.
Yeah.
And yeah, so her name is Bella. She's gonna be a year and 2 months on the 20th of this month. She's about 65 pounds. She's a big girl. And this girl, like, she like, it's funny, like, you have that repetitiveness where you teach them certain things and then they start picking up and say, okay, this is what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And I also have a cat. We actually rescued, it's funny how Next Level was saying that he rescued a cat too. I rescued a cat over the summer. I had are you in California?
Yeah. Just north of San Diego. Yeah.
Okay. I'm in San Bernardino. I don't know if you know where that is. Close
All
to
right.
Riverside. Yeah. So not too far. So I drove from California all the way out to Illinois.
That's a long drive.
It's a road trip, big time. And it was fun. I ran into my brother-in-law that lives in Colorado, hung out with him for a little bit, and then drove out to Missouri to the family farm. And there is a cat that got stranded there. And it was one of those things that they were just like, okay, if nobody takes the cat, we're just going to take the cat to some kind of shelter or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm a sucker when it comes to pets too. I'm just like, damn it. I was like, okay, I guess you're making the road trip back. So I took my puppy at that point. My dog was only, like 6 or 7 months. We just spaded her maybe a month prior to that, and her attitude was pretty much still the same, still go 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 go. But I know with cats, I know that they can be very stubborn.
Sure.
They're very smart though. They like, if you call them, if like I call my cat Boots from Shrek.
Sure.
So I'm just like, Boots. It's funny too, because he'll look straight and then he'll slowly look over at me like, what do you want? And then slowly move back the other way saying, never mind.
Yeah.
How do you get, I know, like, cats being, they're like on their own. They just do their own thing most of the time. And even some dogs, there's some dogs out there that are just stubborn. So how do you deal with a stubborn pet? How do you train them to be like, this is the order of lights to pick on? This is like, how do you do it? How does that process look like?
The big thing with learning, and that's like dogs, cats, humans, any kind of learning, really, for it to work well. It's the thing you get in acting. What's my motivation? So with dogs and cats, if you've got a cat or a dog that isn't motivated by anything, attention, praise, pets, food's usually what they're most motivated by.
Usually.
Yeah.
my dog is not motivated by food.
Really? Yeah. Boxers are often very food motivated, but
yeah, mine loves walks and loves me to throw her whatever toys
are another big motivator. I think, especially for some dogs. There probably are cats that are pretty toy motivated as well. So you kind of gotta have something that they want, right? And then with Fluent Pet, you're teaching them to ask for it. And so ideally, there's a few different things that they want. So maybe they want a toy, maybe they want food, although we don't recommend food as like one of the first things to teach them.
Mm.
Well, it's because like you're trying to make it clear that the button is not that you're not teaching them to perform an action, right? You're teaching them to express at the beginning, usually to express a need, right?
Mm.
Not a want.
Well, our want, need. I mean, express a desire for something, right?
I,
It's a
I got a
want is
bug
fine.
here. If she would just constantly say "feed me," if that's a want, that's not a need, right?
You know, well, but
Food.
yeah, it's not even clear that like maybe she's just like, well, if I do this thing, I get some food, right? So I'm just
Right.
going to keep doing this thing, right? And it's and so you know, you don't want to. It's not a stupid pet trick, right? You're not supposed to.
Mhm.
So that's kind of. I mean, eventually, actually, some of our we call them teachers and learners. So some of our teachers tell us that, you know, actually adding a food button ended up making a big difference because maybe they weren't seeing a lot of traction with their learners, and then when they added a food button, it really everything clicked. But
It's like a motivational kind of factor.
yeah, well, it was just like, oh, like, you know, you're asking me to use these buttons, like, why should I really do that? Okay, I
Right.
guess that I kind of know what that means, but like, oh, by pressing this. Anyway, I don't have all the details. Every dog is different. Every human is different. That's you're talking human X dog, right? Now that's like
Mhm.
that many more kinds of variations, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so if you're trying to teach a cat, you just got to figure out like what's motivating. So I've been trying to teach this guy, and he really likes getting onto my lap. So I've created like a lap button, and I'm trying to make it so that he has to press the lap button when he wants to go on my lap.
That's really cool.
He also really likes food. Again, I'm trying to like, it's easy for me to teach him to do something for food. That is easy. But again, I'm trying to teach him to do the same thing in a slightly different way for slightly different things that he wants. Right.
Right.
So, yeah. So, and that's the same thing. So with dogs, it's a fair bit easier, but that's often because they just have a bunch more things that they obviously like that they can communicate that they want, whether it's going outside or
Right.
water or food or a toy or attention or
They're a little bit more dependent on us than a
yeah,
cat is.
yeah. And also they respond to more things in the environment. So like you have dogs, if they're you know, if the letter carrier comes by, you know, the dog might start barking. Well, you can actually identify that. There's an action that that happened that was a response to something that was, you know, actually a regular event in the world, and you can say like stranger. You press the stranger button, and you're like, oh yeah,
Stranger danger.
a stranger. Well, actually, the word we came up with, and I was talking with Alexis about this. Alexis has a Bunny, the dog, who has like on TikTok they've got over 7 million followers. On Instagram, over 1 million followers. And I was talking with Alexis. I was like, we need a button for, you know, for the feelings that Bunny has when she's upset about something outside.
Right.
And we came up with the word concerned, right? So concerned, you know, and now that's like a thing, right? You can get like a T-shirt that says like concerned. So yeah, so you can kind of you can use the button because you can have like a clear and regular you know, event-driven relationship between a button and something in the world. And that's when you can start associating a meaning to it. It's when things are really hazy and vague, and you know, that things get a lot more challenging. And so with cats, like there aren't that as many connection points. But I think maybe once you start having a few of them, you might be able to find some more.
I'm a little bit curious about what the onboarding process looks like with Fluent Pet. So I've seen the website a little bit, but I'd like to know a little bit more about how do you get it set up? Is there kind of like training tutorials? Does someone from Fluent Pet like walk them through, or is there tutorials that they have to watch? And then how do you transition that into the owner taking over those actions?
Yeah, so Fluent Pet, there's no automation at all. It's just buttons that you record words into with your own voice. And then, so you say like outside, water, play, all done. All done ends up being a pretty important one early on. You usually want to combine it with play. You're like, no more play. Play's over. But yeah, I mean, if you go to the website, fluent.pet, and you, I think you want to go to, let's see here, learn, and there's a get started guide. And it's like a pretty comprehensive guide. You can also, we've got a PDF that you can download that has a lot of this, just in like a book format. So I mean, we built this whole page using everything that we learned from our users. So we from early on, this would have been in the spring of 2020, right when things were going a little bonkers. We found the people that had, a lot of them had taught 10, 15 words to their dog already. And this is in the span of like 4 months, right? 5 months. And I said, like, well, how did you do it? Like, what worked well? What didn't work well? How did you teach particular words? And so we consolidated all of those insights and tips and tricks and kind of practical bits of know-how and we actually created a guide at a different website, theycantalk.org, which is still a valuable website that you can go to find specific pointers on teaching your learner. It's not as Fluent Pet related. And so that's what we've been constantly iterating on the best practices, and we're going to just keep iterating. The other thing that we created as well was a forum. So you can actually visit that forum at how.theycantalk.org. And that forum is a place where people can go and they can talk about the challenges that they're having. And there are, thousands of people there that are able to potentially provide guidance based on their own experience. We take the position that there are no experts, really. This is why we actually call the people who are really advanced, we call them like guides. It's kind of like, everyone's just landed on a new continent or a new island or something. And it's like the people who are there already, like kind of know the way around, but no one's been there that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. I'm just going through the website, just looking at it, and it says, like, for me, I'm always like, okay, there is a get started, there is a basic vocabulary, and then there is a they can talk. So I know for me, I would be like, okay, we got to go. Let's just go all the way and go. They can talk. Let's just get everything right off the bat. If we were to do, let's just say we were just like, let's just start from the very beginning on get started. I think you mentioned that we record our own voice, and that becomes the voice of the button.
Yep.
Okay. If you wanted to then upgrade, how like, is it just like, hey, I need to go into the basic vocab and then is there like a price difference on that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we have different sizes of kits for just, depending on people's level of curiosity and whatever means they have, we wanted to have a lot of different entry points. So, because, this is a thing that ends up getting used by dogs, and, we can't like resell things that easily because of that reason,
Right.
If you're not sure, you really should just go with like a tester kit. It's like $30. It's the cost of like a fancy entree, at a restaurant. And pick that up, try it out. If you see it's got 2 buttons, which is enough for you to see if your dog is like, or cat is like actually able to discriminate between the two and press them in what we say are contextually appropriate ways. So if you've got them pressing 2 different buttons in contextually appropriate ways, then you're golden. Then you can just kind of run with it. And then it's a matter of like how much cash do you have on hand at that point in time. And if you're like super committed and you've got the means, then absolutely just like go for the big kit. It's definitely the best value. And so, so that's kind of the way we think about it. Get started is like great as like a gift, or if you just want to have more buttons to start with. And then basic vocab. The cool thing about basic vocab is it has we have 6 different kinds of hex tiles. Each of the hex tiles is meant to correspond to, at least when you're getting started, is meant to correspond to like a different part of speech. So we have like sentence subjects, like I, like mom, basically dogs and the names of dogs and maybe the humans in the household. Sentence objects, which can be toys. They can also be like places, are like
Cool. That's cool.
Well, actually, places aren't really anyway, but they are objects. So the And then there are descriptors, which are like how you're doing a thing. There's like greeting social words like hi, hello. And then there are action words like jump, play. Now, do the dogs recognize that the word has that particular part of speech? Probably not. Play could mean the event of play, or it could mean the activity of playing, or it could mean the toy that they always play with when they play. We don't know what interpretation a learner has of the particular word. But the notion is that if we cluster words that are similar parts of speech together, we're at least providing them with some kind of hint that, play and, use the bathroom, or, maybe go upstairs or jump or whatever. I don't think anyone's got a jump button, but you know what I mean? Like or all, if all the verbs, all the action words are all in one place, and all the person words are all in one place, then maybe they'll start to categorize the words more accurately.
Well, I think the magic lies in using our own voice, because a lot of times we train our own dogs. They listen to our tones. I used to run a doggy daycare, so I worked with a lot of different dogs, and they get used to how you speak to them, right? And they know by your tone, I guess, the urgency or what they're doing at that moment as well, right? So I think there's a lot of magic of you allowing the pet owners to record their own voice with their own tone, and it continues the training that they're already instilling with their pet, right? So I think that's a beautiful thing that's so simple in itself, right?
Totally.
I wanted to clarify one thing with the different packages. The tiles themselves do the same thing. It's just you buy more tiles as you need to upgrade.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if your dog is like learning, I mean, usually it's the first few words that often take the most amount of time, but then, pretty soon you're adding like 1 or 2 words a week.
Right.
And then eventually you run out of buttons. We actually also recommend that you spread out your buttons as much as you can at first. And so like, that's why we, each tile can hold up to 6 buttons, but we actually really don't recommend that you like pack all your buttons in, because it's
sensory overload.
There's that. Well, certainly you do not want to start with a ton of buttons like that. That is it's overwhelming, and they're not gonna be able to figure it. Like, definitely do not do that. But the other thing is just like the way discrimination works. When things are more spread apart, they're easier to categorize as different, right? So whereas when they're closer together, they might be mixed up with each other more likely. So so that's why we recommend people like begin by spreading them all out. So the Get Started Kit has 3 hex tiles that can support 18 potential buttons, but we only include 6, and so we really think it's great to have them spread out. But then the using your voice thing, we think that could be valuable. I mean, the other thing that I suspect is quite valuable is the fact that they can experiment. And so they can get the feedback of pressing the button and hearing the word. And so it's kind of like and so they can kind of try things out. And that kind of their ability to trigger a thing that they recognize. One hypothesis is that is like a really core functionality that allows them to kind of learn the meaning of the button.
Now, I'm also curious. A lot of people who own pets, they have more than one.
Yeah.
Do you find it to be more difficult when there's more than one pet in the home? Or do you think it's easier because one kind of shows the other what to do?
So far, what we've seen is it's the latter, actually, very fortunately. Like, especially dogs, but I think basically every mammal, if not every animal, when they see a conspecific, when they see another member of the same species doing something, they can much more easily relate to what that is, and then subsequently do it themselves. That seems to be the case. That's speculation. I should probably cite a paper on that. But we've definitely found that when there's like, generally speaking, if there's the cool thing about this, because there isn't food involved, right? It's actually makes things a lot easier in certain respects, because if there was food involved, then both dogs would like be all up in each other's business. You'd have to, you're giving food to one and not the other. That was actually more of a challenge with the original clever pet, you'd get one dog that would do the thing and another dog that would come in and take the food. And so that was problematic. But with this, it's like one dog, the dog that's not into it is just ignoring it, at least for a while, maybe for the first 2-3 months. And then the one who's into it is into it. And then, but the one who's been ignoring it is constantly getting this data, constantly getting this information and an example of how to use it and what happens when you use it. And they're observing and eventually a lot of the time they start using it like after, but it'll be on their own time, on their own schedule. Might be months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year even.
Wow. I got one here. I think it's pretty cool how, and I think everybody who's a pet owner probably goes through this, especially when they're 8 weeks old. The first thing I think everybody does, maybe not 100% everybody, but the majority of stories that I hear is, okay, we go to bed, we put our puppy inside the bathroom and we block them in, and all they did was cry the entire night. Or they pooped everywhere, or they, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, the first night is always like the most horrible night that tests everyone's patience.
Sure.
And I know when our first night, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? You know?
Yeah.
But within time, you know, I think I spent, and I know I was telling Next Level, like, every day, like, I'm sleeping on the floor today with the dog.
Yeah.
And it's been a process. Now it's like, you know, hey, let's go to bed. Second I say let's go to bed, she gets up, goes to the door, goes to the bathroom, goes outside, does her business, comes in, she drinks some water. She always leaves a little bit of food to snack on at that moment. So she snacks, she follows me upstairs, gets in her bed. She kind of, you know, I call it, she donuts herself. You know, she makes a little donut out of her body, you know, and she just lays there for a second. She watches me brush my teeth and everything. The second I lay in bed, she jumps in my bed now. And then she finds a spot. And the one thing that I'm dealing with right now with her, and I know again, you know, dogs are very, very smart. Cats, pets, any animal really is really, really smart. And the one thing I've been experienced is, because she is that boxer shepherd, is large breeds have issues with their joints.
Sure, yeah.
And so, you know, they're already telling me, they're like, hey, you know, just to let you know, she's gonna have hip issues. And it's just like, okay. Have you seen or experienced, or maybe somebody told you that they taught their pet when they have like an owie or an ouch, or they're in pain of some sorts? You know what I mean?
One of the first videos of Alexis's with Bunny was she had, I think, created an ouch button. I think the way she taught Bunny the ouch button was, I think maybe when Bunny would have stepped on something that was painful, or I don't know, maybe there was some kind of, she would capture moments where Bunny happened to have something happen to her that was maybe slightly painful. Maybe she got, I don't know, bumped her head into a wall. So she got the button, and then Bunny, this would have been, I don't know, sometime later, Bunny ended up pressing paw ouch, and then like walked up to Alexis and like presented her paw. That's what it looked like. Who knows? Like maybe it could have been the case that she said paw ouch, and then like Alexis subconsciously put her hand out, and then like, you know, the doggy did shake. Anyway, what was interesting is in her paw there was like a sharp piece of plant that was like apparently digging into the paw.
Wow.
So, you know, and then we've had other people that have put ouch in. I think we have one person who's trained their cat, and their cat apparently is saying ouch because the cat has like a urinary tract infection or something. And like,
wow.
So it seems like there's ouches happening in apparently contextually appropriate contexts associated with that. Again, all of this is speculation. We want to make clear that like it's really hard to tell. But eventually maybe there's enough pieces that we can start to sort it out.
Like even with like just to follow up with that, like have you heard of something like with an ouch being associated to like an upset stomach or I can't go to the bathroom? Like have you seen something similar to that?
I think we've heard of things like that. One of the weirder things that we've seen is recently Bunny has started to say like bird belly go. Like Bunny will see a bird and it looks like Bunny wants to like eat the bird.
Yeah, that's what I got too. Wait, bird belly.
Yeah, a bird belly go, which if it's coherent is just mind blowing on its own.
Right.
Just rearrange it. I want to go put that bird in my belly. Like,
yeah.
Well, but the amount that like Bunny would have to understand for that to for her to be able to come up with that, and she originally did that with a bird that she saw that was like up in the air or in a tree or something. Subsequently, I think they were having a turkey dinner. Maybe it was a Christmas thing, and Bunny had some turkey, and then Bunny also said like bird belly go turkey, like with the turkey, which is even more crazy because it means that Bunny somehow figured out that what Bunny was eating was bird. Maybe Alexis told her that was bird, but this is bird. But even if she had told, then she would have then properly identified the thing that she was eating, and then again said like the fact that it's not obvious that if you're a kid when you chew something and swallow it that you know where it's going. It could go to some portal in another dimension, right? Like it could just disappear. As far as we're concerned, that's what happens. I mean, we never see it after we swallow, right? So hopefully, and so the fact that like Bunny might know that that's where the food ends up is like what?
But at the same time, like this is groundbreaking. You don't know where it's going to go, right?
We have no idea. Yeah,
and it's hard to kind of paint where this tool or how this tool is going to be applied when everyone's journey with their own pet is so different.
Totally.
Right? You can't we take our pets to a vet and majority of the time we already know more than what the vet's going to tell us how our pet is feeling.
Sure.
You know what I mean? We have a different bond, a different relationship with them. I am curious though, you did mention working with an occupational therapist when we first started talking, but what is some of the, I guess, more broader applications that you've seen with Fluent Pet? Like, have you seen maybe applications with, guide dogs or maybe even with an owner that was blind and it was used as a tool to help communicate with or between the pet and the owner? Like, I think there would be some really good applications, I guess, going to that next level or going beyond the standard, relationship.
I think the blind thing could be pretty challenging just because of the modeling and all of that. We do actually, there is a blind cat that's very much worth looking up. I think the account is Positive Behaviors, PAWSITIV Behaviors. I think it's the American spelling. And so if you, this woman has a cat that's blind. And in order to identify the buttons for the cat, she has like put little felt, glued pieces of felt on it in different like configurations. So it's kind of like cat braille or something. And what's really cool is you can see sometimes when the cat is going to make a response, she touches the thing but doesn't trigger it, and then goes and touches another one and then triggers it. So it's like it really seems like she's inspecting to make sure that she's got the right button before pressing it. Which, I mean, what? Like, it's a cat that's like inspecting a thing for its like identity, and then super cool stuff there. As far as like other applications, we do think that like maybe probably body parts. I mean, if you look at what like young children learn very early, like heads and shoulders, knees and toes, right? Like body parts are a very tangible thing that like every animal has. Identifying them probably is fairly straightforward. What's cool is like, we share body parts with other things. Like I have a head, they have a head, right? Like hopefully. And and then pain is like a simple concept too. So it's probably the case that we could see dogs eventually saying like, ouch foot, or ouch belly, or ouch head, or ouch ear, or ouch tail, or something. That seems entirely within the realm of possibility in the relatively near future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this one's a little bit more fun, but I'm curious, do you see, I guess, implementations of other sensory, I guess, stimulations going forward with Fluent Pet? Like, would you have a smell apparatus with a sound as well?
So I think we have done some. We actually have some like patent ideas around smell stuff. I think there's a lot of potential in the interface as it's currently organized. The fact that you've got this grid of things that learners can recognize. I'm just making sure all right, cat doesn't step on my electronics here. Anyway, so yeah, basically because I think you've got this like uniform, like each of the buttons is same but different, right? So the cat or the dog can recognize that that they know how to activate it. It's the same kind of process of, okay, I do a thing and I press it and then a sound comes out, but there's like uniqueness to each of the buttons, and I think that that interaction, that kind of duality, might be kind of the magic elixir that makes all of this possible. So that being the case, I think you could potentially use smells to maybe enhance like a learner's recognition of like what a button means, but beyond that, I think it could be challenging.
For sure. I mean, you want to, I guess, focus on one thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting where society is going with social media, and we're having not just more influencers as people anymore, but we have a lot of influencers that are animals and pets. I've seen even pigs as influencers when I used to do pet shows at the pet show. Do you guys get contacted by a lot of people asking for their pet to be an influencer for your brand, or do you is that something that you're looking into, or do you have an affiliate program where you work with a lot of pet influencers?
Yeah, so we have a different take on influencers and affiliates. We call them guides. And what we're interested in is not really the size of their following or audience. That's like not that important. What's important is that they've achieved success with their learners and in the learners' use of the buttons. So they should have a few buttons, probably 5 or 6, and we should see evidence of like contextually appropriate use of the buttons. It shouldn't be the case that you see like spamming of the buttons and then like food coming in. Like it shouldn't. You can see that if the dog is like, while they're pressing it, press and like watch and press, like that's probably, there's some weird thing going on behind the scenes, and maybe she's pointing and it's trained and it's a trick. So what we want to do is we want the people who are spending the time teaching their dogs to use these buttons, we want them to be our affiliates, and then we help them gain a following. That's our approach. And so far it's been quite successful.
Nice. Super cool. Well, we're not that far from each other. I'm not that far from each other. So I do have a puppy. So if you need a dog, I could definitely bring her in.
Well, I hope you get a chance to try it out. I mean, it's people have found it extremely rewarding. I would say actually one of the key insights from Clever Pet was this thing that we thought needed to be really painless, like the onboarding with the person teaching their dog to use the device. That thing which we thought we needed to minimize, make it easy, and get the dog to the point where they're using it independently. Turns out like that was their favorite time using the device. Our humans, the human owners, or pet parents, however you want to call them, they loved the interaction that they had with their dog when they're first teaching their dog to use the Clever Pet Hub. And so that's what it's, if you're committed to like that kind of process of discovery, it's people have an amazing time.
Yeah, definitely. And I would, I definitely want to get some and yeah, I'll end up doing a review on my channel, and for sure it's I get really excited with this with stuff like this, especially when I can include my puppy. I've done several videos already with her, like from dog collars to smart doors for her to go in and out. So I could already I like there's a couple things I already see her doing because she's already currently doing it. She's just not able to speak it yet, which is she runs to the door, which means she needs to go walk.
Mhm.
Rope, that's her universal code for toys. And what's the third? So the third thing is she loves to go outside for no reason to the backyard. She'll just run out there and just. So I'm kind of curious to know why she wants to go out there. So
She gets to run around and smell things.
yes, yeah.
That's
so
it's like TV for your dog,
for sure. So before we wrap it up, is there any last final things that you would like to add? Where can we find your stuff? Where can we find your product? And we'll make sure we'll leave all the in the description below for anybody else to find out there. So
yeah. So fluent.pet is the URL, fluent.pet. We actually have a new product coming out. That's why we were going to be at CES, called Fluent Pet Connect. That's just fluent.pet/connect. The cool thing about that is that product is, well, we addressed all the things that people had given us feedback on. So it's louder and clearer, and it allows for people to automatically track which buttons their learners pressed. But the thing that people are really into is the fact that basically this lets your dog send you a text message. So they could go like, "Mom, outside, play," and you can be like, at the office and be like, "Looks like that's what Casper wants."
Yeah, that's super
hilarious.
cool.
I'm looking at it on the website. It looks really nice, like the different colors, and I can see. Is that an actual screenshot of the application? The dog texting the owner?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. So anybody out there listening to us, and this is actually very nice. I'm looking at it too. You know what? Let me do this for anybody out there that's watching. That way you guys have a little some context right here. Some pretty cool stuff. You can pre-order today. So make sure you guys do check out the description below, and we'll make sure to hook you guys up as much as we can. And again, we want to say thank you, Leo, for coming and talking with us, and showing us some of this cool product. This is amazing stuff. I think all of us, when we have fur babies, we love our animals, and anything that we can make it where their lives are easier, our lives are easier. I think a lot of people buy into that. Next level. Anything you got to say before we start ending the show? Oh, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry, I got my puppies in the background too, so I was muted.
You're good.
I really appreciate the conversation, Leo. I hope that we have a lot more conversations in the future, as you guys look like you're continuously upgrading and making your products better. One quick question I have before I wrap it up is, I noticed that they're on pre-order now. When do you expect to be shipping by?
Spring/summer. I mean, I've got one right here. I mean, we've made hundreds.
Nice.
We're pretty dozens, I should say, but we're pretty far along. So right now we just want to make sure that it's as reliable and stable and great an experience as possible. So that's the stuff that we're focused on at the moment. It could be as soon as early spring, but spring/summer to be safe.
Right. Yeah. I'm super excited. I can already think about a few people that I'd like to see them work with their dogs with it and see what they can come up with. I'm super excited. So I appreciate the conversation that we had, and I definitely look forward to more of these conversations in the future, and seeing where Fluent Pet goes. For everyone that's listening out there, make sure that you leave us a review so other people like yourselves can find the content that you're enjoying. If you're listening to us on the audio side, just leave a review wherever you're listening to us, so that more people can find the same content as well. If you are looking to be part of the conversation and part of the community, make sure you come out every Thursday between 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly live show so that you can be a part of the conversation as well. As you never really know where the conversation is going to go or who we're going to have on here, because this was definitely an awesome conversation that I'm super excited about. So take care, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks.